Thanks, Goose. In Far Cry 4, just about everything is trying to kill you.
I'm going to gut you like an animal! Yeah, I'm going to give a piece of you to each of my children!
Did we miss it? Dude, no! We did not just miss the action!
Far Cry 4 is an open-world shooter set against the backdrop of the Himalayas. You play Ajay Ghale, a man returning home to scatter his mother's ashes. But before Ajay even gets off the bus, things go very wrong.
Yes, the region is gripped in civil war, and the evil regime leader somehow knows who you are, and your parents play some part in the history of the area.
I recognize those eyes anywhere.
You immediately side with the rebel group known as the Golden Path.
Welcome to Banapur, home of the Golden Path.
In what feels like a whirlwind 15 minutes of characters and action, you're quickly on your way to shooting everyone you can find that wears the colour red. Hex, I appreciate that a lot of people don't play Far Cry games for their story, but still it struck me as quite odd how quickly AJ started mowing down everyone without really knowing much about him or the war itself.
Yeah, the setup does feel a little bit rushed, and it makes it hard to get on board with the characters and the plot at first. AJ seems to accept his role as the American-raised hero this country needs.
I'm not a soldier, but I want to help.
Even though, from what I can gather, no one has ever seen him before.
We don't have time for tourists.
Yes, and even with the little bits of reasoning here and there as to why AJ is doing all of this, let's not kid ourselves. This is one guy who's here to destroy an army.
There are plenty of solid performances from the characters you meet along the way, and they play out more like monologues than cutscene.
9 of my men are dead. Good men you let die.
You guys put me in a difficult position.
The right choice was obvious!
But I like how you never leave the eyes of AJ, which is a Far Cry staple to stay really anchored to that first-person perspective, and I think it works really well. The developers have purposefully minimized how much AJ speaks, too, which I guess is a good thing because his script and voice acting isn't very strong.
Yeah, everything he says is kind of annoying.
Yeah, and it feels weird next to the rest of the cast's big epic speeches.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A soldier knows. A soldier always knows.
But I guess that's the challenge with first-person storytelling, where you don't get to see the character at all throughout the entire game, except in this case with a selfie at the start.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why Half-Life's Gordon Freeman was mute, or why Bethesda games, Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series keep their characters quiet. It just feels better. And unless you have stellar voice acting and writing, such as with Bioshock Infinite, for example, I always find it a bit weird. It's kind of like the character is talking for you in the first person, like they're right behind you.
Well, Mom, looks like we're staying.
You're quickly introduced to 2 leaders of the Golden Path, and they each have their own agenda.
This is about lives. We don't act, people will die.
This is about war.
As you progress through the campaign missions, you'll make some decisions about who to side with, and this will impact story and objectives in some missions. The freedom of Far Cry comes in how you approach your objective. It's about planning your attack, and then panicking when it goes wrong.
Along with the campaign missions, you'll be doing things like liberating outposts, tackling much more challenging fortified encampments, rescuing hostages,
Fire it with...
and hijacking radio towers, just to name a few.
It's all pretty standard stuff. It doesn't stray too far from the Far Cry formula. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'd say on the whole this game is pretty by the numbers.
Yeah, there are solid improvements over the last game though. Wildlife is everywhere now, and they cause much havoc.
Oh man, the first time you get attacked by a hawk, Bajo, I nearly dropped my controller.
Yeah, that's pretty intense, but it's nothing compared to a gaggle of honey badgers. Tough little blighters. It's so nice to see so many animals just wandering about. That's actually been a bit of a dream of mine, to roam through a jungle or a forest and just see wildlife everywhere. Oh, it's a beautiful tiger.
Yeah, mostly you'll be using wildlife to create mayhem in a base. You can either shoot a cage or more effectively hurl a lump of meat into the middle of a base. Within seconds, the nearest predator will sniff it out and start tearing apart your foes. It's not exactly realistic, but who cares?
Yeah, not me, Hex. It's just fun watching your enemies stress out so much. Woodland creatures, attack!
You really can't get very far just driving without something going down as well. There's cargo trucks to stop and random karma opportunities, which are usually rebels under attack. It does feel like a world in the grip of war, and I especially liked it when you came upon hunters. These are stealthy archers who are difficult to tag with your camera. There are a lot of tough fights in this game, and a few difficulty spikes too, depending on your approach.
Yeah, before you leave a base, you really do need to gear up and have a set strategy. I often found myself with not enough weapons or ammo out in the field. You can't rush through this campaign. Crafting bags and upgrades is essential for you to progress properly, especially the wingsuit, which you happily get in the first hour.
Yeah, prepare for a few rough landings though. Nailed it!
Yeah, those wingsuits are pretty unforgiving, especially if you hit a tree or a wall, it's instant death.
Yeah, that actually made me stop using it as much. I guess I just wanted to be more like Batman.
Me too, but then I always want to be more like Batman. There are a few little helicopters around too, which are zippy and super fun. Along with the grapple, you can see they've tried to make the world a bit easier to traverse in general. The parkour and feeling of momentum as you crash and roll is punishing, but it feels just right. In fact, I can't think of a first-person game that does this kind of thing better.
Yeah, especially that lurch forward when you crash a car. And that grapple is a nice addition too, although it really only works on specific ledges, so roaming about does have some niggly restrictions.
Yeah, I kept wanting it to be like Just Cause, where you could grapple anywhere. There are plenty of weapons to unlock, but my favourite was the sidearm grenade launcher, which I like to call the problem solver. The fights feel harder than the last game too. Rushing into any sort of enemy encampment is instant death. You are so fragile.
Yeah, even with the bulletproof vest upgrade, you die pretty quickly. While healing is free, it takes a lot of precious time if you don't have any medical syringes on you. One thing I did like though was the auto drive system. This is an autopilot for vehicles, which gives you more time to aim and shoot at your targets or pursuers. It's just great that they've thought about how to free up your weapon in motion, and it inspires many action hero sequences.
We mostly reviewed this on PS4, and it's a great looking game, and it's so lovely just having those mountains in the background at all times. It all runs quite smooth, and there's wonderful detail in the character models too. There's lots of nice touches throughout this game, such as how now you can just commandeer a civilian vehicle. You don't have to take out the driver to do so. But stepping back, Hex, it does feel very Far Cry 3.5.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit too similar to Far Cry 3. At the time of review, we weren't able to get an online versus match, but we were able to test out the co-op, which locks off the campaign missions but ties together other objectives on the map.
Oops. Did you do that?
And this, I think, is what really elevates the game to its true potential.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to summon a friend into your game, and you're going to want to do that a lot. The tough bases are very challenging on your own. Plus, it improves the strategy of the planning stages. Unscripted things happen, and it's so much fun sneaking about and taking out a camp without even getting spotted once.
Yeah, we got it. Well done.
Or just rushing in with an elephant.
Hello. Watch out for mines. We'll be fine. Elephant! No!
I like that they've included a map editor too, and it's quite detailed. I don't think my Monkeys vs. Rocket Launcher map is a masterpiece of game design, but I'm glad the game let me make it. But yes, there is massive potential for budding level makers to muck about with this toolset. I really struggled to score this game, Hex, because so much of it is the same thing. You're doing it just over and over again. Shoot the red guy, climb the tower, collect the things, move on. And all of that is polished and works well, and the co-op adds enormous value. But still, I just kept waiting for something to truly pull me into this game, and it never really did. I wanted it to.
Well, I think there's elements of this series that I don't really like either, Barjo, and I do find it quite frustrating at times. But I think it's the magic of such a big world full of tactical problems for the player to solve that really grips fans of the series. Especially if you really get into that co-op, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
But who's responsible for all this blight? Pagan men. Let's say it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Pagan men.